The NFL is the ultimate form of theater.
Upright, crossbar.
Oh my goodness, Bears season's going to end on a double doink.
We have seen some pretty insane moments and stories over the years that almost defy logic. Let us take a look back at 10 of the most insane moments that we've ever seen. So much so that we will likely never see anything like it again. The Double Doink 2018. Sorry, Bears fans, this one might hit close to home. But there's just no better place to start this list than with Chicago, Cody Parkey, and the Double Doink. What makes it all the more painful is that Parkey actually made the first take at it, but it was nullified by a well-timed timeout from Eagles coach Doug Peterson. Then, for Chicago, calamity struck. Parkey's potential game-winning field goal hit both the upright and the crossbar before falling back onto the field of play, resulting in a missed kick and a 16-15 victory for the Philadelphia Eagles. Major sliding doors moment in Bears history, as that kick completely changed the trajectory of Mitch Trubisky and Matt Nagy's careers in the Windy City. Antonio Brown's mid-game exit 2022. The NFL is a league that is filled with high-paid athletes with big egos and loud personalities. But no one individual embodies that ethos more than the one and only Antonio Brown, who, in one of the more shocking character arcs that we've ever seen, went from an unheralded 6th-round pick to an all-pro to a caricature of himself and ultimately out of the league altogether. Brown has made a lot of questionable, to put it lightly, decisions during his time in the NFL and was often the center of controversy, but his grand finale was really something. During his stint with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he abruptly left the field during a game against the New York Jets midway through the third quarter. And following an argument with the coaching staff, he proceeded to remove his jersey, shoulder pads and all, firing some of the items into the stands, and ran across the end zone shirtless, waving to the crowd before exiting through the tunnel, never to be seen on an NFL field again. The novelty of this childlike tantrum was really something that I doubt we will ever see take place again. Tom Dempsey's 63-yard field goal, 1970. While time eventually caught up with his record 63-yard field goal, the Tom Dempsey story is different. See, the legendary kicker was born without toes on his right foot and fingers on his right hand. And he managed to kick a then record and frankly unthinkable 63-yard field goal to give the New Orleans Saints a 19-17 victory over the Detroit Lions. Think about that. The man was physically handicapped on his foot as a professional kicker, and yet he still managed to drill a kick that set a record which stood for 43 years. Yeah, I don't think it's a stretch to suggest that we will not see that happen again anytime soon. Len Dawson smoking a cigarette during the Super Bowl, 1967. Everyone knows that the NFL is a completely different beast in terms of the way that players approach it from a wellness, nutrition, and preparation standpoint nowadays. But no single picture better encapsulates that than this still shot of Chiefs quarterback Len Dawson ripping a cigarette during halftime of the inaugural Super Bowl, which his Chiefs ended up losing, I might add. NFL historians will note that cigarettes remained a part of locker rooms for probably a decade after that, with players like Fred Biletnikoff, another Pro Football Hall of Famer, who smoked like a chimney. But as far as having a star player like Dawson front and center during the Super Bowl with a cigarette during the game, we will never see anything like that ever again. Not on football's grandest stage. Look, victory cigars are one thing, but with the way that the NFL and really American culture at this point views cigarettes, I think it's safe to say that the mid-game heaters are likely a thing of the past. Heck, Mike McDaniel couldn't even get away with a little vaping action mid-game. Bo Jackson's Monday Night Football run, 1987. It is hard to fully explain to today's fans how insane Bo Jackson was, not just as a physical specimen, but also the way that he played the game. Typically, when people think Bo, they think about the fact that he played 2 sports professionally, and then they wonder about what his career would have been had he just focused solely on one. Or if he had just stayed healthy. Rarely do people end up focusing on the way that he always seemed to deliver when the lights were at their brightest, like he did in late November of 1987 on Monday Night Football. NFL players made great runs long before Bo, and have continued to since. But what the Los Angeles Raiders star did that fateful Monday will never be recreated. Jackson delivered an unforgettable 91-yard touchdown run against the Seattle Seahawks, not only putting his unmatched combination of speed and power on display, but also showing up Seahawks Seahawks big shot linebacker Brian Bosworth. Then Jackson finished the play with his iconic burnout into the tunnel. I can only imagine just how viral this would have gone in modern times. Shoot, it basically went viral across not just at the time, but across generations predating social media. That's simply how iconic it was. Saints onside kick in Super Bowl 44, 2010. Say what you will about former New Orleans Saints head coach Sean Payton, whose popularity has waned in recent years, but the call that he made to lead into the second half of Super Bowl 44 was ballsy as it gets. New Orleans was trailing 10-6 against Peyton Manning and the high-flying Indianapolis Colts offense. A feeling that they needed to steal a possession to knock Indy back on their heels, Peyton did the unthinkable and called for an onside kick, one to be taken in the highest of pressure situations, under the bright lights of the Super Bowl, with the entire world watching and the momentum of the game hanging in the balance. In many ways, this was a higher stakes moment than an onside kick at the end of the game, because the Saints didn't have to do this. And if they failed to convert and the Colts went down and scored on the shortened field, which, let's face it, they probably would have, the game could have gone completely different. And all of the discussion afterwards would have been about how Peyton went over his skis thinking that he could channel his mentor Bill Parcells, who had once used a fake punt to help lift his Giants over the Niners in the '90 NFC title game. This is why we will never see anything like this ever again. No coach in their right mind today would make this call. The Heidi Game, 1968. With just over a minute left in the game between the then Oakland Raiders and the New York Jets, something happened that is unthinkable in today's world, where football is a billion-plus-dollar business and quite literally has all the broadcasters by the throat. In any case, at that time, the Raiders and Jets were two of the AFL's marquee teams, and this game featured 10 future Pro Football Hall of Famers. So needless to say, folks all around the country were eager to tune in to watch the action. And for the most part, the experience delivered. It was action-packed all the way up until the final minute of the game, with 65 seconds left, and the Jets kicked a field goal to take a 32-29 lead. The Raiders returned the subsequent kickoff to their 23, and the game then went to commercial, and never returned.
The Jets had the lead with 1 minute 5 seconds left.
That's right, NBC cut away to the movie Heidi, causing fans to miss the Raiders scoring 2 touchdowns in 9 seconds to win 43-32. This incident actually led to networks ensuring that football games are broadcast until their conclusion. The Snowplow Game, 1982. It was mid-December. The year was 1982, and a seemingly innocuous AFC East showdown between the New England Patriots and the Miami Dolphins somehow managed to make itself a part of NFL history. The Snowplow Game was played in Foxborough, as one might imagine, considering that Miami was the other option, and it was played under, as you may have guessed, brutal, snowy conditions. It was a defensive battle throughout, with neither team able to break through and even get on the board. That is, until late in the fourth quarter, with the game still scoreless, the Patriots found themselves with an opportunity to take a 33-yard field goal. As the team lined up for the kick, Patriots head coach Ron Mayer called on the team's snowplow operator, a man on work release called Mark Henderson, to clear a spot on the field for the kicker with his trusty John Deere tractor. Henderson did so swiftly and successfully, and John Smith converted the field goal try from the cleared patch of snow, giving the Pats a 3-0 lead and victory, which happened to enrage opposing head coach Don Shula. The use of the snowplow was controversial and actually led to some changes in the rules. Though Shula's initial protest fell on deaf ears, the NFL ultimately changed the rules so that way only league-sanctioned maintenance could be done mid-game, essentially ruling out any possibility of something like this ever happening again. The longest game, 1971. This iteration of the AFC Divisional Playoff game between the Miami Dolphins and the Kansas City Chiefs took place on Christmas Day. And let's just say that there were extra presents in the stockings, as fans got way more than they ever bargained for. The game started at 4 p.m. Eastern, but it went to a double overtime with over 82 minutes of playtime, and ultimately lasted over 7 freaking hours, finishing after 11 p.m., which is insane to think about. That is almost a full doubleheader in terms of runtime. This game went back and forth quite literally all day, until Miami was finally able to seal the game with a 37-yard field goal towards the end of the second overtime. What's crazy about this one is that it was played under the old overtime rules too, meaning that it sat at 24-24 from the end of regulation for nearly 2 full periods. Considering the overtime rules have changed and the pace at which modern offenses are able to move the ball, I think it's highly unlikely that we will ever see something like this play out in an NFL game ever again. The Miracle at the Meadowlands, 1978. In a November showdown between vaunted NFC East rivals, the Philadelphia Eagles and New York Giants, a shocking play happened that, quite frankly, I doubt we'll see it ever happen again. New York was leading 17-12 with just 31 seconds on the clock and had the ball, albeit deep in their own territory. All the Giants needed was a kneel to secure a victory, but for some reason, Giants OC Bob Gibson decided to have Larry Csonka run the ball instead. And the handoff was promptly botched in epic fashion, fumbled, and recovered by Eagles' Herm Edwards, who didn't just scoop it up, but managed to return it to the end zone for a game-winning touchdown that absolutely crushed Giants fans. But hey, which moment or story do you think is the least likely to happen again? Which one was your favorite? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton, and hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, well, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.